Hey everybody, welcome back to Rachel Reads. My name is Rachel. I love to read and write Christian fiction, and today I'm doing Recent Reads number 7 of 2024. After this, I will start with Recent Reads number 21, and it'll be for 2025. But because I procrastinated so long, I think there's about 24 books left to talk about. And for this, I'm going to give you the name of the book, the author, the rating, a sentence or two about what it's about, and a sentence or two on my opinions and why I rated it what I did. So there are a lot of books to get to. I'm not going to be holding any up, which means editing me is going to have a lot of fun. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started, and here we go. The first one I have to talk about is the first 3 books in the Christy Miller series. I read this as The Bind Up, and I gave it 3.5 stars. So what it's about is about a girl named Christy Miller who goes to her aunt's beach house for the summer, and she learns about God, and a lot of crazy teenage drama happens, and there are a lot of great lessons learned. My rating, it was good. It was a lot of drama for me, but I could see why people like it, and it's really good for that young adult age. The next book I read was a reread, Mind the Gap by Erin Mangum. I gave this book 5 stars. This is about a girl named Kate who goes with her grandmother to a trip in England, and there she meets a tour guide, and it is a Christian romance. My rating, I really love this book. I love the adventures and the lessons and the faith content of her books, and the romance was just really sweet and clean. The next book was book 2 in the Winter Soul series, and that is A Heart as Red as Paint by Jennifer Croft. I gave this book 5 stars. I really love this series. This is about a girl whose name is escaping me, but this is her story as she goes to this winter world and discovers the truth and her role in that. And my rating, I really love this book. It took a different tone from the first book, but I still really enjoyed it. The next book is book 3, A Crown of Sharpest Pines. I also gave this one 5 stars. This one really did up the action and the suspense and the tension, and it did end on a really good cliffhanger. I'm not going to say what it's about because it is a continuation, but I do love it. And then I read book 4, A Beast as Dark as Night, 5 stars. This whole series is 5 stars. This wrap-up was really good, and I love the allegory, so I highly recommend checking it out. The next book I have to talk about is He Fell in Love with His Wife by Edward P. Rowe. I did DNF this book due to some language, but this is about a girl who realized she's not married to the man she thought she was, and a guy who kind of needs like a housekeeper or someone in his house to just take care of it, and that is their story. Like I said, I DNF'd it, so that's all I'm going to say. The next book I have to talk about is The Secret Gift by Bethany Atazadeh. This is the prequel trilogy to her main Stolen Kingdom series, and this is the villain origin story. So it's about a girl and her powers, and it's really good fantasy. I gave it 4.5 stars. I did enjoy it. With the villain origin story, the arc is a little bit different than the hero story, but for that I did enjoy it, and eventually I want to continue with the rest of the trilogy. The next book I have to talk about is The Lost Boys at Barlow Theater by Jamie J. Wright. I give this 3.75 stars. So this is dual timeline. The past timeline is about a girl, and she thinks she sees a baby fall in the theater, which causes an uproar and casts doubts on her health and how she is. And the main timeline is, I think, about Ghost Walk in the theater. I could be getting it mixed up. I think it's about ghost walks. And I like the faith content in it. It just wasn't my favorite Jamie J. Wright book I've read. Just some minor things that I didn't love, but it was okay. The next book I read was Double Take by Lynette Easton. I gave this 4.5 stars. This is about a woman who thinks she's being hunted by her ex-husband who died about 18 months before the book takes place. And she thinks she's being hunted even though she killed him. And we're following a romance. Again, I love Lynette Easton, so there was good faith content, really good suspense, and I enjoyed the romance. Next one I read was a short story, and that was Sea Glass by Kara Swanson. I gave this 4.25. This is about a girl. We are kind of thrown in the midst of a story as we see her kind of exploring and trying to save her brother, I believe it is. I enjoyed it. It was really short, and I would love to see it fleshed out even more, but I think it's a great story. The next book I read was The Song of Sourwood Mountain by Anne H. Gabhart. I gave this book 4 stars. I could really see it being a comfort read. There is kind of a marriage and convenience storyline, which I did enjoy. It took a while for me to get into it. This one's pretty clean, and I did enjoy the faith content. What it's about this guy who asks his teacher to marry him and move with him to the mountains, and I'll leave you at that because that's a pretty good premise, and it's a little slow, but it's really good once you get into it. Next book I read was The Last Rose by Victoria Lynn, 5 stars. I absolutely love this book. This is book 3 in the Chronicles of Lyra. I would recommend starting with book 1, but book 3 is about a knight on a quest, a lost girl, and a man who is torn by the scars of his past. That's all I'm going to say because it is book 3, and I would recommend it in order, but I love this book. 6-star read, one of my favorites of the year. Just so many good things about it, and the faith content, just the relationships were so well done. The next book I read was Don't Look Back by Lynette Easton. I gave this 4.25 stars. This is book 2 in a series, but they are standalones, and this is a girl who is actually being stalked after by a previous stalker, so there are some trigger warnings that I left in my Goodreads review, but I did enjoy it. Good faith content, good romance, and there was a lot of suspense and action. The next book was On Foster Hill by Jamie J. Wright. I did DNF this book. I just couldn't love it. I don't remember the exact premise, but I did DNF it, so I'm not going to spend too long on it. But you might like it, just wasn't for me. The next book I read was Wormwood Abbey by Christina Bear. I gave this 4.9 stars. It wasn't exactly a 5, but it was really good. This is cozy fantasy, so it does start out in the early 1900s in England. This girl goes to an abbey that has been inherited because someone in the family died and there are dragons. Pretty cool premise. I love the story. Very cozy, whimsical. I do want to continue with the series. Next book I read was Poison by Mary Meekum. I gave this one 4.5 stars. This is about a princess. It's a Snow White retelling, and she ends up running away to the woods, so the Snow White premise, but she comes upon this family and she learns how to take care of people, how to be compassionate but also stand up for herself. I did really love the themes, and this has a lot of good messages about, caregivers, disability, gaslighting. It's just a really good story, and I did enjoy it. The next book I read was The Elusive Miss Ellison by Carolyn Miller. I gave this 4.25 stars. This is very much like a Christian Pride and Prejudice. It is about this girl, and this new earl comes to her village. He's the earl over that town, and him and her kind of don't get along so well, but I do love their relationship. Next book I read was To Defy a Dream by Mary Meekum. I gave this 4.75 stars. It is my favorite Mary Meekum that I've read so far. This is a Sleeping Beauty retelling about a girl who pricks her finger on purpose and goes into this volcanic world to save her brother, but learns a lot on the way. Like I said, this is my favorite Mary Meekum, so I enjoyed the relationship a lot. I enjoyed some of the themes and the characters a lot. The next book I read was Within These Gilded Halls by Abigail Wilson. I gave this book 4 stars. A very cozy Regency mystery that had good romance. I enjoyed the story. It's not like my favorite book ever, but I did enjoy it, and I'm glad I own it, and it's a good book. The next one I read was Dagger Sleep by Trisha Meangrink. This is a Native American fantasy Sleeping Beauty retelling, I think is the best way to put it. The girl kind of has a chosen one where she is meant to wake up the prince who fell asleep, actually, and I did enjoy it. The faith content was pretty good. The story wasn't my absolute favorite, but I loved a certain character in it, so I did like that much. The next book I read was The Broken Branch by Erin Mangum. I gave this book 5 stars. This is about Jess, who is learning to deal with the grief of losing her dad in a goat farm, which is pretty interesting. I love this book. I think it made me tear up or cry. Just a really good book. The faith content, again, was amazing, and I do love the relationship in the story. The next book I read was The Elusive Truth of Lily Temple by Joanna Davidson Palatano. I also gave this book 5 stars. This was such a delightful book. This is about Lily, who is an actress, a silent film actress, and she has this certain necklace she wears that is coveted by this one woman who claims to own it, and about a guy named Peter who is meant to kind of investigate her but also bring the necklace back. And I love the talks on, does fiction have a place, should we just rely on truth, and that was just such a good story. that I do highly recommend it, and I love it, and just great books. The next one I read was The White Slipper by Brittany Fichter, which I gave 4 stars. This is about a girl and her father. Her father has a foot injury, but he's given a special shoe that heals him, but the shoe does break, and someone is sent to go make a new shoe, and there are a lot of great things in this story, and I did like the relationship. It was just a very good, clean fairy tale retelling, and I did enjoy it. The last book I have to talk about is To Shatter a Slipper by Abigail Manning. I gave this 4.75 stars, rounded up to 5 on Goodreads. But this is a Cinderella retelling, one of my favorites. So this is part of the Shatter Tales, which is a flipped version of all of these fairy tales. So what if the slipper fit the wrong girl, which is a really interesting premise. And I love the way this story was done with the themes. I wish it was longer, but it was a really good book. The romance was amazing, and I did really enjoy it. So that's all for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope God blesses you today. I do my best to post Tuesdays at 12:30, and I'll see you next time. Bye!